Hey folks, Colin here from Sumthins Recording, and today I want to show you how to mix strings, and more specifically, how to mix strings in a rock environment or in a rock style track. We're going to be looking at mixing some stringed instruments today. We have a violin, viola, and a cello track in this song. But before we dive in, if you're ready to go a little bit deeper into the mixing process in its entirety and really start to hone your workflow as an audio engineer, then I have just the thing for you, and it is completely free. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and it's just a simple PDF that will walk you through the entire mixing process, step by step, to help you get professional and radio-ready mixes without any more of the hassle and without any more of the guesswork. It is a completely free guide, and you can download it below using the link in the video description. Now let's jump in here and look at these strings. Let me start by playing you the two different sections on these string parts, and I'll play you in the track and as well as soloed here. Let's take a listen to this chorus section here first for the song, and I'll solo up the strings halfway through. You can hear how they're sitting in the mix. Now, first things first, I did a balance on the strings here on the individual tracks and then sent them all to a group bus. So all three of these tracks, the violin, the viola, as well as the cello, are sending into this track here, which is the strings bus. I did a slight bit of prep work on each track before I mixed them as a whole on the bus. So I kind of like to separate each instrument out into its own voice here. So if we listen first, to the violin track, you can see what I did here. I'm using the high pass filter, and I'm doing it on each of these tracks to roll off any excess bottom end that we don't need to hear inside the track. There's some body there on the violin, but we don't need that in the track. We need that top end, we need that shimmer, and we need that shine on the strings to cut through in the mix. So I'm using the high pass filter here to roll off some of that excess bottom end that we don't need inside the track. Now, moving over, same kind of thing on the viola here. So take a listen, and I'll A-B the high pass filter. We're a little bit lower here. You can hear without the high pass filter, you start to feel that lower octave come in. We don't need that in the mix, especially with a stack of strings like this, violin, viola, and cello. That bottom end will start to build up, and it'll compete with our electric guitars, our piano, as well as our acoustic guitars. I don't want to create competition here. I want a space for the strings to sit by themselves and proudly be bright and have that shine and that shimmer. So we're focusing more on that brightness on the top end of the strings. Last piece we have here, down on the bottom, is the cello track here. And you can see we're just slightly lower. With each string and instrument we get slightly lower on the high pass filter. Same thing, I'll A-B the high pass on the cello here. This is probably the instrument or the stringed instrument that we're doing the most cutting on. We're up at 364 hertz here, and it's trimming off quite a bit of that lower octave and that lower frequency, but it helps clear up the cello sound so it doesn't feel muddy and it doesn't feel heavy. If this was the only stringed instrument, we'd probably leave more of that in, but we're going to get some of this back as we combine all these instruments together, because this will build up here. So now we have all three. So let's take a listen to all three of these together without the EQ on the bus here. So now that we've separated these voices or kind of honed in on the fundamental area of each of these instruments, now we're going to mix them together because they're an ensemble. So we want to treat them like an ensemble. I don't want to mix them individually and then have to try and do fader balancing here. I want to get them set, get them in their own frequency ranges, and then mix them as one instrument. That way I can kind of have one fader to move the strings around up and down throughout the mix here. Now let me turn on this EQ. If you notice, it kind of looks like it would be vocal EQ, right? High pass filter, cutting low mids, and boosting top end. Because in a sense, stringed instruments can kind of be like a vocal. They can be like a voice in the mix. You don't want too much bottom end. You want to clear up the low mids, and you want to add air up on the top end. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Our first move here is using the high pass filter just to tighten up the ensemble as a whole here. So listen without and then with the high pass filter. Not a huge change there. You can see we're not cutting too much into the bottom end of these three stringed instruments together. They start to come in, their main bottom end frequencies from about 300 to 500 here, so in the low mid area, and we've got our high pass at almost 200. We're at 195 here, just a little layer of protection. So as we push these up in the mix, nothing gets too crazy down there. The next move we're making is we're reducing this low mid area. So this low mid buildup to get rid of any kind of muddiness, any kind of buildup we have by combining these three string tracks. So we're at 450 hertz and I'm going to pull out almost 4 dB. We're at negative 3.84. Listen without and then with this cut, and I'll also boost it up so you can hear the frequency range that we're affecting here. You can hear the sound doesn't change too much, it doesn't change drastically, but what does change is the feel. It feels a lot softer. The strings get a softer tone, they get a little warmer, and they don't feel so heavy sounding. Last thing here on the strings is top end boost. This is where we add air, this is where we make our strings feel bright, feel shiny, and feel pretty up on the top end here, right? So we're doing 8K, we're up at 8K, 8.08K, and we're adding about 6 dB of this. We're at 5.76 dB. Take a listen without this boost and then with, and I'll throw them back in the mix. This is a drastic tone change. This is pretty much a night and day difference. We have this darker tone, makes everything feel older, right, farther back. Suddenly we kick on this high boost, this 8K boost, and everything brightens up. We get that air, we get that beauty that we want out of our strings here. Listen one more time, same boost here, 6 dB, 8K. Dark to bright there. We're not hurting the warmth. We're keeping that warmth in the strings, but we're adding brightness on top of that. That's the combo we want, warmth and brightness. Just changing it from dark tone there. Let's throw them back into the track here and listen in these couple different sections. We'll back up going into this kind of re-intro section. Can't stop the bleeding. Just a few moves here to get the strings sitting in a rock track like this. We're using a high pass filter on each of the stringed instruments to kind of sit them in their own frequency range, and then EQ on a bus where all three of them are ascending to get out that low mid area and give them brightness and air overall. I hope that was helpful for you. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you're ready to take your mixes to the next level and really start dialing in your workflow as an engineer, then I have just the tool for you, and it is completely free. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and you can download it below to start creating more professional mixes in less time. Thank you so much for watching today, and I will see you in the next video.